بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وأرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه وادخلنا برحمتك في عبادك الصالحين آمين يا رب العالمين. Welcome everybody to part 3 of our Halaqa series, Journey of the Soul, the Fiqh of Hajj and Umrah. And Alhamdulillah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from all of us here. Being here, it's a rainy day. I know a lot of you probably need to prepare for Eid and guests coming over and many things to do. But Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tawfiq to be here in the masjid and educating ourselves and seeking knowledge. And a reminder just to, inshallah, maybe be even more grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that one of the greatest acts of worship that you can do is to seek knowledge. Yeah? And we mentioned that the malaika look for these gatherings of ilm, of dhikr. And when they find one, they tell the other angels to come. And they tell them come, and then they shower them with their mercy. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives those people. Yeah, and He switches their sayyi'at with hasanat. He switches their evil sins with hasanat. And of course, we're on this great day of Arafah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. طيب, so in the first day, we covered, alhamdulillah, kind of introduction to fiqh. We talked about the virtues of Hajj, the rulings of Hajj. We talked about the ihram, the talbiyah, and we stopped at the miqat. So today, inshallah, we want to cover, bi'idhnillah, we want to cover al-fidya. Okay, what is al-fidya? What are the rulings of al-fidya? What is prohibited in the haram areas in Mecca and Medina? We'll talk about entering Mecca. What do you do when you enter Mecca? Tamam. And then we'll talk about also description of Umrah, a description of Hajj, pillars and obligations of Hajj. What does that mean? Now that you understand how Hajj works, there are things that have to be done. There are things that are arkan, okay, pillars. And there are things that are obligations, right? Wajib. And there are things that are sunnah. And if you miss them, no big deal. Tamam. And some of the things, if you miss them like a pillar, your Hajj is not accepted. Tamam. So we'll talk about those for Hajj and Umrah. We'll talk about what happens if you miss Arafah, right? Arafah, which just literally just is today, right? The Hujjaj now, I think they're already in, it's almost Eid there now, right? Soon, huh? طيب. 9 hours, right? Is it 9 hours? Yeah, so they're like in Mina now. And of course, we'll talk about also the sacrifices. Al-Udhiyah, Al-Aqiqah, and Al-Fidya. طيب. ممتاز. Quick review from last week. So we talked about that there are conditions for Hajj to be obligatory. Tamam? So we said Hajj is obligatory for who? What are the conditions? Huh? So someone who's mustati', yes, qadir, mustati'. We said mustati' is able what? Able just physically or financially and physically. So he has to be financially and physically able. What else we said? Has to be a Muslim, obviously has to be a Muslim. We said he has to be mukallaf, baligh aqil, right? Baligh aqil, someone who's pubescent, and he's sane. It can't be someone who is crazy, someone who's that person would be excused, right? Because why the غير عاقل, مثل المجنون, the one who's not sane? Why he's not mukallaf? Why do you think? He can't make a niyyah because he's not aqil. He can't actually make a niyyah. وَإِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So he's not actually, and Allah will not ask him. Allah will not ask that person. And that's why, like one of the things that excuse us for some of the things, like someone is أغمي عليه, for example, he fainted or he fell asleep or something happened to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold him accountable for that. We said that Hajj are 3 kinds. There are 3 types of Hajj. Who can tell us the 3 kinds? Or just one of them? Huh? So we have Hajj Tamattu', okay? And then we have Ifrad and Qiran, okay? So we had 3 kinds of Hajj. We said that At-Tamattu' is the one where you do Umrah first in the days of Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah and Dhul Hijjah. And then you get out of your ihram and then you kind of do Tamattu', you relax. And then basically you enter into the ihram again for Hajj. That's tamattu'. Then we said ifrad, you just do Hajj by itself. And we said qiran is where you do the niyyah for Umrah and Hajj together. Tamam? طيب. So those are the three kinds of Hajj. Which one did the Prophet ﷺ do? Ifrad. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ did. Ifrad. طيب. Ihram. What is Ihram when you hear the word Ihram? لا, you can still do Ifrad. You can still do Ifrad. نعم. Yeah. Because نعم, Ifrad you can still do it. It's not just for the people of Mecca. لا. But remember we said the Ifrad, as we'll see later, the Mufrad doesn't have to slaughter. Yeah, the one who does Ifrad. طيب, what is Ihram? What is Ihram? Al-Ihram. We have to, like, to get into Hajj, we have to do Ihram. What's Ihram? Huh? Okay, that you're talking about the physical Ihram. But what is the most important part of the Ihram? An-Niyyah, right? And it has to be done before the miqat. We said last time that the Ihram, you have to get into Ihram, the state of Ihram. And it's not just some feeling you have. It's actually a very restrictive state. Why? Because if you don't get out of it, those things that are haram now for you will stay haram for eternity, until you get out of Ihram. So it's really important to learn how to get into Ihram and how to get out of Ihram. So in the books of fiqh they emphasize this is when you get out of Ihram. Okay, if you don't do this, you're still in Ihram. And remember last time we said that it's recommended, especially in the Hanbali madhab, is to make a condition that, oh Allah, I'm entering Ihram, and if I'm stuck, إذا أحصرت, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned في Surah Al-Baqarah, if I'm stuck, then my mahil is wherever I am. The condition is that I will leave Ihram wherever I am. Okay, so that's recommended. Why? Because if you get stuck, then there's some things you have to do before you leave, get out of your Ihram. You can't just get on the plane, come back to Calgary and do everything. If you do that, you'll be doing a lot of haram, and you'll be owing a lot of fidya, a lot of sacrifices. طيب. Miqat, we mentioned the miqat. The miqat, we said there are those 5 miqats, the places where you have to do your Ihram before you enter the area of Mecca and طيب. Jamil. Okay, so we're going to talk about inshallah fidya. We talked about that, entering Mecca. Cool. Let's start. Bismillah. So we got lots of material. I'm going to try to kind of go through it. If you have a question, ما في مشكلة, raise your hand, and then we'll try to finish, and then we'll have some Q&A in the end. بإذن الله. My goal is to finish by 8 max. So if it's going too long, stop me please, inshallah. But inshallah we will finish. طيب. Let's start with the fidya. If I say fidya, what do you understand for that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says فَفِدْيَةٌ مِّن صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. What's a fidya? Huh? Fada. Yafdi. What's that? To sacrifice something. Al-fidya is a sacrifice. Okay? So when we talk about fidya, okay, so it's an expiation or a means of compensation for a missed action or a violation of Hajj related law. Okay? So if you missed something, or you did something wrong or a violation, then you have to pay a fidya. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in several ayat, right, where you have to pay a fidya. طيب. So that's what a fidya is. It shouldn't be regarded as a punishment, but as a means of rectifying or renewing your commitment to the pilgrimage and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not, you don't look at it as some kind of punishment, right? Or a person not sinful as long as he does the fidya, right? Like for example, and we'll see examples of that. But for example, somebody enters the area of after the miqat, the center, right? The area of and he didn't do his ihram. He didn't do the intention, right? And sometimes people do that, like when they're trying to enter illegally, right? Maybe you guys seen videos of the people trying to enter without tasrih, right? But they won't make the ihram niyyah. They won't even put their ihram, and they'll tell the authorities, we're not here for Hajj, we're just entering. And then after they do their niyyah inside the mawaqit, now he has to pay a fidya. Okay, so that will expiate for his for breaking one of the laws of Hajj. Or for example, we said things like cutting the hair, because when you're ihram you can't do 9 things, right? We said for example cutting the nails, cutting the hair, putting on perfume, right? What else? Covering the head, wearing makhit, something that is like shape of the body, for the woman to cover her face, right? Being intimate with your spouse, or anything that is like leads to intimacy, or aqd nikah, right? A marriage contract, and so on. So these are things that you're not supposed to do when you're in the state of ihram. طيب. Okay, so if someone does any of the 9 things that we mentioned, right? Those 9 things, محظورات al-ihram, that are prohibited while you're in ihram, or they do something that they're not allowed to do in the haram areas, we're going to talk about in the next slide, then he's required to pay a fidya, right? An expiation. So fidya, expiation, to make it up. Okay? So if he shaves, puts on perfume, clips nails, right? He covers his head if he's a male, right? He's not supposed to. But you've seen now, those of you who are like watching the Hajj now, you see they have umbrellas, that's fine, right? So if you have an umbrella, that's not considered as something that is covering your head. It has to be lasagh, yani stuck to your head, like a kufiya or a kufi or like a hoodie or something like that. Tamam? طيب. So yeah, or a female covers her face, the fidya can be paid in one of the following three ways. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَفِدْيَةٌ مِّن صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. So the fidya, the expiation, can be paid by fasting 3 days. Okay, so if you do one of these things, you have to fast 3 days, or, okay, because Allah says, أَوْ, so you have an option, or feed 6 poor people. Okay, feed 6 poor people. So either fast 3 days, or 2 people for each day. Okay, so if you can't fast the 3 days, you feed 6 people. Okay, yani it's optional, obviously, whichever one you want. Every poor person must be given either the same as we do in Zakat al-Fitr, right? A mud of wheat, right, or the equivalent, or half a sa' of dates, raisins, or barley, or the equivalent of that, right? Which comes up to like half a kilogram of mud of wheat, or like a liter or a kilogram of dates, raisins, or barley. Or the third option is to a nusuk. A nusuk basically is slaughtering a sheep or a goat. Tamam? Slaughtering a sheep or a goat. And we'll talk about the conditions of a sheep or a goat. So quickly here, the fidya is the expiation for something that you did wrong in the Hajj, tamam, to compensate for that. And you either have to do 3 days fasting or feed 6 people, okay? طبعا if you're there in Mecca, you just tell the authorities, right? And you pay them the fidya, and they'll take care of it. Or you can fast it yourself. So you can either fast the 3 days, okay? Or you can pay them the fidya and they'll take care of it. Like they'll do it for you. And they'll slaughter the sheep for you. It's not like you have to go look for a sheep in the middle of Mecca and like, you're, oh my God. For now it's much easier. تمام. طيب. You can do that, but طيب. Now, نعم تفضل. لا هنا أو ربنا الأو فهنا مخير. You have a choice. ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك. You have a choice. Some people find it easy to fast. Some people don't have the money. Some people want to feed. Whatever it is, يعني, as long as you pay for the fidya. ففدية من صيام أو صدقة أو نسك. It's not like the كفارة يمين. كفارة يمين is where you have to. There's order, right? It's not the same as the expiation of an oath of a yeah. طيب. So there's also a fidya for hunting. Do you remember we said that you're not allowed to hunt, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم. Don't kill a sayd. A sayd can be translated as what? A sayd. So anything that's like they call it game, right? Or any that's like halal, undomesticated animals, right? Not And so, for example, I don't know, an ostrich or something like that. Okay, so that would be like a sayd. So لا تقتلوا الصيد وأنتم حرم. ومن قتله منكم متعمدا فجزاؤه مثل ما قتل من النعم. Okay, so when we talk about the fidya for hunting, you're not allowed to hunt. But if you hunt, and it's not just hunting, even if you like, some of the ulama, they say, even if you like give someone the tools, like, here, go hunt for me. He's not, like, he doesn't have ihram, and you're like, here, grab this and go hunt that for me. That's a nice, animal right there. Or you pay for it, or that's all counted as sayd, right? So if you hunt an animal in the haram area of Mecca, or while in the state of ihram, okay? For Hajj or Umrah, you have one of two cases based on the type of animal you hunted. So there are a type of animals that they have, we call them mithli wa ghair mithli, right? Mithli is like the ones that there's an equivalent for them. The Sahaba and Prophet ﷺ, they said that the equivalent, for example, of an ostrich is a goat, for example. Okay, this is mentioned, you will find it in the books of fiqh. Okay, so and then there's others that we don't know, like there was no equivalent for them, so it's a bit different for them. So let's talk about the equivalent animal, right? Al-mithli. Why they call mithli? He said فَجَزَاءٌ مِثْلُ مَا قَتَلَ مِنَ النَّعَمِ. Okay? من النعم يعني from the domesticated animals. Domesticated meaning what? Sheep, goat, camel, cow, right? Those are the main 4. طيب. So the hunted animal has an equivalent animal. In this case, you must slaughter the equivalent animal. Okay, so you have to slaughter to expiate for that. So if you hunt while you're in the haram or in the state of ihram, you have to expiate that by slaughtering the equivalent animal. If you cannot find the equivalent animal, then you can ask an expert for its price and use the equivalent money to buy enough food that suffices for sadaqah al-fitr for the poor, which is the amount we mentioned before, right? To feed a poor person, mud or half a sa', right? And so let's say we find that the equivalent is this animal, but you can't find one. Okay, so you have to basically find the price of that animal. Let's say it's, okay, how much is it now these days for like let's say $400. Okay, and then you see how many people $400 feeds. Sadaqatul Fitr was how much last Ramadan? $10 was $10. Let's say $10 just for the math. Okay, so let's say $10, and it's the cost of the animal is 400 that you want to sacrifice. Okay, so how many people are you going to feed? 40 people. You're going to feed 40 people. Okay, so that's what you would have to do to make up for that. Okay. So we said this is the equivalent of 1 mud of wheat or half a sa' of something similar to that. If you do not have the money to do this, then you must fast for each day for each poor person. What does that mean? We said that the equivalent, okay, you found it, okay, you slaughter it. You don't find one, you see the cost of it. Okay, it costs 400, okay. You can pay for it and feed 40 people, okay. Or if you can't pay for it, what do? Okay, you fast for each one of those. So you'll be fasting 40 days. You'll be fasting 40 days, okay? So you either pay for it or you have to fast for each person. So I have an example here. If the value of the animal equaled enough to feed 12 poor people, right? 1 mud of wheat or half a sa' of something else, then fast for 12 days, right? So if the value of the animal would feed 12 people and you cannot pay for it, then you would fast instead. Does that make sense? So this is how you do kafara for an equivalent animal that you slaughtered. Type. But what about the ones that have no equivalent? Okay, in this case, you have to either feed or fast. You have to either feed or fast. So feed according to the value of the animal, like we said. Okay, so let's say it's 300, so that will feed like 30. Okay, so if the value allows him to feed 5 poor people, then he must do so. Or fast each day for each poor person, right? If the value allows him to feed up to 5 people, then he must fast 5 days. Tamam. So this really depends on your financial situation. Either you feed or you fast. So that's how you make up for the side. Okay. If someone is doing Hajj tamattu or Hajj qiran and cannot afford to do a sacrifice, we said that the mutamatta' and the qarin, the one who's doing tamattu or qiran, they have to do al-hadi. They have to do a hadi. Al-hadi is also a sacrifice, but it's specific to the Hajj here. It's not something you're for something wrong you did or something you forgot. This is actually part of the Hajj. Okay. فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِي, right? And al-hadi is the animal they would used to carry with them back in the day. So if someone is doing Hajj tamattu or qiran and cannot afford to do a sacrifice which is required, then he must fast 3 days in Mecca. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, okay, فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ فِي الْحَجِّ وَسَبْعَةٍ إِذَا رَجَعْتُمْ. Okay, so he has to fast 3 days in the days of Hajj, and they recommend the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. Okay, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. Okay, so today is the 9th, they would have fasted today, and the 8th and the 7th. And then he says, وَسَبْعَةٍ إِذَا رَجَعْتُمْ. Yani if you return back, when you return back to your country, you fast the other 7 days. تِلْكَ عَشَرَةٌ كَامِلَةٌ. Then you need to fast 10 days. Is this for everybody? No. ذَلِكَ لِمَنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ أَهْلُهُ حَاضِرِ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. So this is only for people who are not from Mecca. If you are from the people of Al-Masjid al-Haram or from the Haram area, then you don't have to slaughter. Okay, you don't have to slaughter. And you'll see later that a lot of the meat that is slaughtered from the fidya and the hadi is given to the poor of Mecca. Is given to the poor of Mecca in that case. طيب. Jamil. So if someone could not do one of the essential parts of Hajj due to being restricted in some way, right? So we said, remember we said that when you do when you get into ihram, you say your condition, right? You say your condition. So if you say your condition, then and you're not able to do one of the things of Hajj, the things we're going to mention, like a pillar or an obligation, then you can get out of ihram that way. Okay, so if you don't, now, okay, let's say you're in ihram, and let's say a war breaks down, or there's an earthquake or something, and you cannot finish your Hajj, you're stuck. Okay, so you have you have 2 options: either slaughter an animal as a compensation and finish the Hajj next year. compensation to get out of your ihram, okay? Or you have to fast 10 days in Mecca and then go back to your country. This is how you get out of ihram. This is for the one who didn't do the condition. And that's why the condition is so highly recommended, because you never know what happens, okay? So if something happens to you and you're not able to finish your Hajj and you do that condition when you do your ihram, then you get out of the ihram. You're out of the ihram spiritually. And then you have to come back, of course, the next year to do your Hajj. But if you didn't do your condition, okay, you have two options. Either you slaughter an animal as a compensation, okay? Or you can't afford it, you have to fast the 10 days when you go back to your country. Do you still have to do Hajj? You still have to do Hajj. You still have to do Hajj ala al-fawr, according to the madhab, whenever you're able to. Whenever you have the money again to go to Hajj, then you come the following year. So that's kind of the fidya. One more thing about fidya. So they mentioned that there are some things from the mahdhurat, the things that are not permitted, if you do them out of ignorance or forgetfulness, right? And this can happen, right? Like then you don't have to do the fidya, right? It's only if it's done intentionally. So I told you examples, like it happened to me once. I was just I got into my hotel and I'm putting my stuff down. I'm in ihram and I'm washing my hands, and it turned out to be one of those scented soaps. So some of the ulama consider this as a perfume, a type of perfume. So it was out of forgetfulness, right? And so you don't have to pay fidya for that, right? So the fidya is overlooked if you do one of the following out of ignorance: wearing fitted clothing for males, al-makhit covering the head for males, or wearing a perfume. So these, if you do them out of forgetfulness, then inshallah you don't have to pay a fidya. طيب. So the meat of slaughtered animals for fidya of violations related to ihram or the haram area in Mecca should be given to the poor of people of around the haram area of Mecca, as mentioned before. So it should be, they get kind of dibs, right? They get dibs on this one. Because there's a lot of fuqara when you go there. There's a lot of fuqara in those areas. طبعا, because there's so much meat. And imagine how many, right now, how many meat are being slaughtered, right? Like so many, like 1 million, 2 million, right? And so that's a lot of meat. So it does get sent to other countries for poor people. It's not just the people of Mecca. It's not like the people of Mecca have like meat for the next 10 years. But fasting in the form of fidya can generally be done anywhere, okay, as we mentioned. In some cases, Mecca is mentioned above, right? So if you have those 3 days, you do them 7, 8, 9, and then the rest you do them after. It's recommended to do them after. If you do them other than the days of Eid, that's fine, as long as you don't do it in the days of Eid, because that would not be permissible. When we say slaughtering an animal for fidya, we mean a goat or a sheep, or 1/7 of a camel or a cow. And this is what some of you will do tomorrow, or Monday or Tuesday. If you want to do an udhiyah, right, it would have to be a goat or a sheep, tamam, or 1/7 of a camel or a cow. Okay, and so 7 families can actually get together and slaughter a cow, and that will be sufficient for all of them. But this is in terms of fidya. Okay, so the fidya is kind of similar here when it comes to, it's similar to the udhiyah when it comes to what do you need to sacrifice. Of course, if you're there, you don't have to worry about it. The authorities will do it for you. You just tell them, I need to pay a kafara, fidya, and they'll deal with it for you. طيب. Finding the equivalent animals. So finding equivalent wild animals for fidya related to hunting violations, as discussed above, fall into one of 2 categories. So we said, okay, this one is red. The battery. I think we need 2 batteries. Finding equivalent animals for fidya related to hunting can be of 2 categories. The ones that were adjudicated by the Sahaba, the Sahaba, right? And you'll find this in the books of fiqh. We're not going to cover it because that's a bit more advanced. But they'll tell you, like, for yarbu' it's a sheep. For this, it's a camel. For I don't know, some wild buffalo, it's it's this. And so they'll tell you the equivalent of it. So those wild animals with which companions of the Prophet adjudicated, they judged that the equivalent of this is this. Okay. طبعا we said. طيب. And then you have those animals which the companions did not adjudicate, find a mithal for it. So in such case, it should be referred. So if they are the ones that have been adjudicated, then you just do it. You slaughter the equivalent. Those who we don't have an equivalent, in such cases, it should be referred to the judgment of 2 upright specialists. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Ma'idah, what's the ayah? He says, فَجَزَاءٌ مِثْلُ مَا قَتَلَ مِنَ النَّعَمِ يَحْكُمُ بِهِ ذَوَا عَدْلٍ مِنْكُمْ. ذَوَا عَدْلٍ, two upright people, okay? Two يعني people that you trust, people that have ilm, okay? بالغ الكعبة أو كفارة طعام مساكين. So either he does that, so either they find equivalent, or they do what we said before, right? He finds, he feeds people instead, or he fasts. So these two specials will convey which animal is most equivalent to the hunted wild animal. Those wild animals which do not have an equivalent, their local value should be determined, okay? So if some animal that we don't have in the Sunnah that's mentioned, some new animals are now in Arabia, right? And so we will get two specialists and they'll tell us, okay, the equivalent will be like a sheep, okay? And then you just slaughter the sheep instead of that. You have a su'al now, تفضل.
So if the animal is wild, like a snake or something like this, and it came toward you and you kill it.
لا هذا بسموه الصائل, like the animal that attacks you, you're allowed to defend yourself. It does not count as sayd, okay? So anything that attacks you, like it's not, even like al-hasharat and things like that. Well, that's the thing. If it's not bothering you, you don't attack it. But if it's going to bother you, like because, and this is important to know, right? Because I remember, like, if you ever been to Mecca or Medina, in some seasons there's like infestation of locusts and grasshoppers, and it's like, and what are the other ones that you find there? Crickets, and they're just like they're everywhere, right? And some people just they're jumping on them, and they don't want to like. I'm like, you can kill them if they're attacking you and if they're coming on you, right? And they're huge. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they're huge. Like they come on you like, and people eat them. I don't know how to eat them, but people eat them. Yeah, if a sa'il, they call it a sa'il. If an animal attacks you, you defend yourself. Of course, that's and it wouldn't count. You don't need to do kafara for that. I think it's called a sa'il now. طيب. Let's talk about now. So we said that there are things that are prohibited in your ihram. Okay. There are also things that are prohibited in the haram areas. Okay. In the haram areas. We said the haram area of Medina and the haram area of Mecca. Are really the same? They're not exactly the same. Because for Mecca, you have to pay fidya. For Mecca, if you do something in the haram area of Mecca that is not allowed, then you have to pay fidya. In Medina, you don't. Okay, in Medina, it's a bit more flexible. طيب, so in Mecca, the following are prohibited while in the state of ihram or in its haram area. Not the whole area is a haram. There's areas that are not part of the haram. So if you do that, if you actually do one of these things, then you have to pay fidya. What are these things that you're not allowed to do? So to hunt or kill the wild animals of the haram area. You're not allowed to hunt or kill them in the haram area. Number two, so of course this does not include cow, sheep, right? The domesticated animals we talked about. Of course, that's how people eat over there. It is prohibited to cut its trees unless it was planted by you yourself, like an actual person. So if there's a tree that actually just naturally grows there, you're not allowed to touch it. This is sacred for the haram unless you planted it. There's a plant mentioned in the books of fiqh because there's a hadith that says that unless you take this plant which was used for scent, it's called al-idkhir, right? Yeah, so the Prophet ﷺ made an exception for this one because the people of Mecca, they used to get this one for like scent. They would like burn it and it would make scent. So it's something that the Prophet ﷺ made an exception for that one. Same thing in Medina, the following are prohibited in the haram area, but if you do it, then it doesn't require compensation. You don't have to pay compensation, but if someone does it muta'ammid, on purpose, then he would be sinful, right? So it is prohibited to hunt or kill wild animals of the haram area of Medina. It is prohibited to cut its trees and its grass as well, unless you need it for food, to feed your animals, right? Something that you need for your animals, or something that is like daruri, you really need it, then it should be fine for you. But just to randomly just cut it or whatever, then you wouldn't be allowed to do that. So these things are prohibited in the haram areas of Mecca and Medina. But now we want to enter Mecca. So now we kind of covered some of the technicalities. Now it's time to enter Mecca. So you have your ihram, you got rid of your luggage, you're entering Mecca. There are some things that are recommended. Tamam? So when you enter Mecca, طبعا you enter al-Masjid al-Haram, right? There's a recommended place to enter. So, and these are taken from kind of the Sahaba, the companions, right? And so they said when entering Mecca, you should try to enter during the day, right? Enter from a high place. They also say it's recommended. These are all recommendations. You don't have to do it. Enter from the door of Bani Shayba. The door of Bani Shayba, I don't believe it exists anymore, but it was the bab where the Prophet ﷺ would enter from. It's called the Bab Bani Shayba. It's not really there anymore. But anyways, if you're doing Umrah, there's a bab called the door for Umrah. There's different doors in the masjid. It's a huge masjid. If you've never been there, you're going to get lost when you get there. طيب, whoever sees the Kaaba is to raise his hands and say what has been narrated. طبعا there is some du'as that are narrated in the book that we're studying, أقصى المختصرات, and it's not really directly from the Prophet ﷺ, but these are du'as that the Sahaba and the righteous people after them used to make. But you can do any du'a you want, right? There is a hadith that is debatable if it's authentic or not, that it says that if a person sees the Kaaba for the first time and they make dua, then that dua is accepted. That dua is accepted. And so when you see the Kaaba for the first time, it's a very amazing feeling. If for those who went, it's an amazing feeling. Like when you see it, it's an amazing feeling. So you should try to make dua bi'idhnillah. طيب. So when the pilgrim now, the Hajj or the Mu'tamir, sees the Kaaba in order to do tawaf, he should stop reciting the talbiyah. So remember now, when you were in ihram, you were saying, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. You've been doing that the whole time now. Now when you enter and you see the Kaaba, you stop your talbiyah. You stop your talbiyah, tamam? And now you want to do your ittiba'. So your ittiba' now is when your ihram was on your shoulder, right? So now what you want to do is you want to take it under your right arm, okay, and then put it over your left shoulder. Why? To uncover the right shoulder. So the right shoulder will be uncovered now when you want to do your tawaf. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So then the person should do tawaf around the Kaaba counterclockwise. So now you want to start your tawaf. You will do counterclockwise. Counterclockwise is which way? The same, the opposite of how the clock goes. Counterclockwise, okay? So you just go this way, okay? So you'll be going like this. You'll be going like this. So when you enter, and I'll show you a picture inshallah, but when you enter, you'll be going like this around the Kaaba. Okay, so the Kaaba should be on your right or left? Left, right? It should be on your left. Now, ahsant. Okay, so counterclockwise. If it is a man, he should tuck the middle of the top wrap under his right shoulder. As I said, this is called al-ittiba', to expose it, and the other end of his left shoulder. The right shoulder is exposed for the tawaf of Umrah, or the first tawaf of Hajj Qiran, or Hajj Ifrad. طبعا the mutamatta' doesn't have to do it. The mutamatta' already did it. He already entered and he did Umrah before, remember? The mutamatta', he already did Umrah, he got out of Ihram, and now he's just completing his Hajj. So he doesn't have to do this tawaf here. This is the tawaf for the one who's doing Umrah or Qiran. طيب. The person is doing a tawaf for either Umrah or arrival to Mecca for Qiran or Hajj Ifrad. Okay? طيب. So now you've entered. So this is kind of what the Kaaba would look like. Now, if you look at the Kaaba, do I have a mouse? Yeah, I have a mouse type. I don't know why it's not showing here. But if you look at the Kaaba, طبعا from the top, the Kaaba technically, did it used to be a square like this? So back in the day of the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam, it actually wasn't a square. So you see this area here, this one here. This is actually part of the Kaaba. This is actually part. Right, they call it al-Hatim, part of the Kaaba, and that's why you're not actually allowed to go inside of it. If you see the pictures, like this one here, you're not allowed to go through it when you're doing tawaf. If you go through it, does your tawaf count? Your tawaf doesn't count. So you actually have to go around it because it's actually part of the Kaaba. When the Kaaba was destroyed, okay, they didn't have enough stones to rebuild it, okay, and then later Khulafa, they were told not to do it. So not to cause fitna, and so they left it like that. But that's actually part of the Kaaba. Okay. So we said you would go counterclockwise. If you look here nowadays, if you go, you'll see a green light. You'll see a green light. Okay. If you enter, you'll see a green light on every floor or from the outside. That's where the black stone is. Okay. And that's where you start your tawaf. So you will go there, and then when you pass that line, kind of, you can estimate. You will start your first tawaf, okay? You start your first tawaf. If you look at the Kaaba, so this is the black stone here, okay? And this is the Yemeni corner, because Yemen is like this side. This is the door of the Kaaba, okay? And this is where like it's recommended to say the dua, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Okay? So you will do how many tawafs you will do? You will do 7, tamam? And it's important to count. Now, the first 3, you do them fast. You try to do them fast. This is the recommendation for men, to try to do it fast. For the women, you don't have to. If you don't do them fast, it's okay. So begin the tawaf at the black stone. So you go to the black stone, right? facing it. Now, what's recommended is that you touch it, okay, and then you kiss it. If you can't, right, if you can't physically kiss it, then you just touch it with your hand and then you kiss it. If you can't, then you have an item, like some people have a stick or something. If you can't, then you just wave. And this one most people do. And nowadays you have to, you're not. If you try to touch the stone every time, you're not going to make it alive. Tamam. I've done like 20 umrahs. I've never been able to touch it. It's just, I've tried once and almost died. But some of you might have been lucky to do it. You don't have to do it, but if you can do it, and the problem is why I say you don't have to do it, because a lot of people, they'll do it after harming other people, and so they'll go in, they'll hit people, they'll punch someone, and then I remember one guy, he touched it, he came out, he made dua against everybody. He's like, oh, may Allah, because they all pushed him, and خلاص. Allah subhanahu says, فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Right? So how are you going to have an accepted Hajj when you're doing that? Right? So you don't want to spoil your Hajj with these things. It's not obligatory. Right? So begin the tawaf at the black stone, facing it or part of it with the entire body. Then it is touched with the right hand and then kissed. If that is difficult, it is touched with the hand and kissed. If that is difficult, it is touched with something which is then kissed. If that is difficult, a gesture with the hand, right? You see people do like this, right? And then you just go, right? You say Allahu Akbar, and then you go, and then you do your tawaf, okay? What do you do while you're doing tawaf? For those of you who did the tawaf before Hajj Umrah, what do you say? What are you supposed to say? Dua. What else? You can read Quran. You could say dua. Sometimes you see groups, they give them like booklets because they don't know what to say, so they just say adhkar. As long as it's something that is ibadah, dhikr. Yeah, some people take their sabha, subhanallah, subhanallah, la ilaha illallah, subhanallah, bihamdih, Allahu akbar, akbar, whatever it is. As long as you're doing dhikr, memorizing Quran or reading Quran, you have, the Husn al-Muslim, do dhikr from there, do adhkar from there, do the du'as. So there's a lot of things to do, to do while you're doing it. Are you allowed to talk while you're doing tawaf? You can talk, no problem. But it's recommended to not waste your time. Like, don't talk about the euros while you're doing tawaf, right? Don't talk about like silly things. Sometimes people are giving a reminder or maybe, something they need to talk about. Also, you try not to get too distracted with your, Instagram, people and photos and let me get this pose and okay, make sure you get me behind the door. You don't want to fall into all this, kind of nonsense. But you're allowed to take a picture, ما في مشكلة. For me personally, if I want to take a picture, I'll do it after I finish my tawaf. So I'll finish my tawaf or after I finish my umrah. If I want to take a picture with my father or myself, just as a memory, I'll do it like after I'm finished, not in the middle of the ibadah, because it's not respectful to do that. It is recommended to do quick strides for the first 3 rounds. We said this is called al-ramal, right? For the first 3, the male is recommended to go fast, right? If he can. If you can't, no problem, right? If you can't, no problem. Sometimes it's very crowded and you can't do it, okay? This is only done for the tawaf of Umrah or the first tawaf of Hajj Qiran or Hajj Ifrad, right? Because remember, there's a number of kinds of tawafs. So we have tawaf al-qudum. Tawaf al-qudum is when you enter Masjid al-Haram, right? This is the one we're talking about. You have also tawaf al-ziyara or tawaf al-ifada. This is the one obligatory for your Hajj, okay? Then you also have tawaf when you leave, tawaf al-wada', right? And this sometimes some people leave their ifada to leave it at the end, and they consider that's wada', and that's acceptable as well. And then you have voluntary tawaf. So tawaf is from the highest recommended acts of worship in the Masjid al-Haram. So whenever you go to Masjid al-Haram, just take you're done your umrah, you're done your hajj, and you just want to go there, tawaf is recommended. You just do tawaf, recommended tawaf, right? You're not in ihram, you're just doing tawaf, right? And so on. Or tawaf and nadhr, like you made an oath. Oh Allah, if you give me a job, I'm going to do 100 tawafs. Okay, so you have to do it. You go there and you have to do your tawaf. So those are the kinds of tawaf that you do. So now you're done your tawaf. You're done your 7. Okay. If you're not sure if you've done 7, you have shak. I did 6 or 7. Do an extra one. Okay, because this is part of your rukn of both of them. It's a pillar. You have to do it. Okay, so now that you've done and you've reached the last one, okay, where do you go now? So you're gonna start at the black stone, you're gonna end up again at the black stone. Now what do you do? What do you do? Huh? Yeah, so now you go behind Maqam Ibrahim. Yeah? And Allah subhanahu told us, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. There's a thing that's where the footsteps of Ibrahim Ismail. And so you go any area behind there. Is this wajib you have to do it? No. But it's recommended to do it. You go there and you pray 2 rak'ahs, okay? And even if it's in the prohibited times of salah, you can do also that one. So you pray 2 rak'ahs. Some ulama, they say you read like the sunnah of Fajr, right? Surah Al-Kafirun, Surah Al-Ikhlas, okay? And if you can touch the stone, okay, one more time you do it. If not, okay, you head now to the door of Safa, right? The door of Safa, and it's organized very well. When you get out when you by the black stone, there's the door for Mount Safa. Now, Mount Safa and Marwa, what do these remind you of? Safa and Marwa, right? Yeah, sa'i. So now we're going to do what's called a sa'i. Sa'i basically is like when you kind of like hurrying from one area to the other. Where do we get this sunnah from, or this tradition from? From the story of Hajar alayhi salam, right? Hajar alayhi salam, when Ibrahim was commanded to leave her there in the middle of nowhere with nothing there, fi wadin ghayri dhi zar', right? And she had a baby, right? And she did her job. She said, you know what, I'm gonna go look for food. So she started looking for water. Obviously, you're in the desert, okay? You're not looking for a shawarma palace or a shawarma king. You're looking for water, right? That's the most important thing. So she goes looking for on top of each hill. Very smart, right? Because you go on top to see if there's any water or if there's any people. And she keeps going back and forth, and that's where we get this tradition. So you go to the bab of as-Safa. So we've done al-tawaf, which is circumambulation around the Kaaba. And now we want to do as-sa'i. Okay, as-sa'i. What's as-sa'i? Like we said, it's going from Safa to Marwa. Safa to Marwa, how many times? 7 times. Okay, 7 times. So we start from Safa, okay? And it's recommended to read the ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah. إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله. Okay, فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم. طيب, so you read that ayah and you start from Safa, right? The same order of the ayah, إن الصفا والمروة, right? So you start from Safa. طبعا the actual mountain, you can't really see it now, and there's multiple floors now to accommodate the people. We have a picture? Yeah, we have a picture. طيب. So you see here, this is Safa. Yeah. So, نعم.
Before Safa and Marwa, don't you gotta go drink Zamzam?
Yeah, so this is one from the Sunan. Yeah, from the Sunan is to drink Zamzam. You don't have to, but it's recommended to drink Zamzam. And some say it's good to kind of just like wash your face and stuff. They don't really like it there if you do it now because people slip. But yeah, you drink some Zamzam, you make some dua, exactly. Okay, so that's from the Sunan. So now you go to Safa. Okay, so you enter Safa here. Okay, and so it's kind of like a little bit of an uphill. You go there, okay, and then you start. You will notice that there's an area here that's green. You'll see like on top of it is green lights. This area you actually have to go kind of almost semi-jog for the males, like a jog. Okay, you have to kind of run. Okay, this is like, it's called sa'i. Okay, someone who's doing sa'i, and then you can kind of relax. You can walk normally. Believe it or not, the whole 7 rounds is about almost 4 kilometers. Yeah, it's quite a distance, right? It's quite a distance, and it's actually pretty tiring. I once had to do it with my daughter, like on my back. Like that was like the hardest thing, one of the hardest things I've done in my life. So yeah, it can be pretty tiring. So we're going to go from Safa to Marwa to Safa to Marwa. Where are we going to stop? You should finish where? If you stop on Safa, is that correct? No, you did something wrong. Okay, either you're on the 5th one, either you're on the 6th one, or you're on the 8th one. Yani, so you have to finish on Marwa. So Safa, Marwa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You should end up on Marwa. You should end up on Marwa. So this is called as-sa'i. طبعا as-sa'i we're going to talk about later. As-sa'i is always done after tawaf, but as-sa'i can be delayed. Okay, for the Hajj, the sa'i can be delayed for later. Okay, but some people like to do it early. If you do it later with your tawaf after tawaf al-ifada, the other tawaf, then you can leave it for later. There's no problem with that. طيب. So you start with Safa. We said you climb, and basically on each end of it, it is recommended that you face the Kaaba and you make dua. Right? And you say Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. What's the dua? Anybody have it memorized? La ilaha illallah. It's been a while. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك والحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير لا إله إلا الله وحده نصر عبده. Yeah, and that dua, and then you make dua for yourself, right? It's recommended to do it 3 times every time. Okay, so you do it 3 times every time. You do that dua, and then you do dua for yourself, right? And of course, while you're going, you can also do dua. You can do dhikr. You can read Quran. Okay, and so on. طيب. Yeah, and we said when you go to the green light, you have to kind of run. You have to kind of run, and then you kind of slow down. You go back to the normal pace. And so on Safa and Marwa, both of them, you're going to do that dua. Okay, if you don't do dua, it's not a problem, right? But since you're there and you're able to do it, right? But sometimes, like I've done it sometimes with old people, they've asked me to go with them, and I just do one, for example. Or sometimes they're very tired and they can't. You just go there and you do quick dua and then you leave, right? And so it can take quite a long time if you're doing 3 du'as every time. So 3 du'as times, that's 21 times, right? You're doing that du'a. So it can actually take quite a long time. So we said 7 laps. So the person begins at Safa, ends at Marwa. Yes, طيب, ممتاز. Description of Umrah. So now we're going to describe Umrah and Hajj. Okay, we're doing good on time. So we're going to now describe Umrah and Hajj. So we said Umrah is the minor pilgrimage. It's very short. Literally, you can finish it in an hour and a half. Okay, and it's just 4 things. What are the 4 things of Umrah that you have to do? Al-Ihram. What else? Al-Tawaf. Al-Sa'i. And then you get out of Ihram with cutting. Once you cut your hair, you're out of Ihram. You've done your Umrah. Very simple. Okay, and then some people will actually, the next day, leave the Haram area. Okay, get Ihram again, and then come do it again. Right? Some ulama said it's not recommended. Some said you can do it if someone died and you want to do it on their behalf as a sadaqah yani for them. Inshallah, that's accepted. طيب, so description of Umrah. So number 1 is Ihram, right? And we said Ihram is basically the niyyah, the intention. You say labbaik Allahumma Umrah, labbaik Allahumma Umrah. Okay, and one who is inside of the Haram area, he must go outside of it, like we said, put on the Ihram and then re-enter back. So someone who's in the Haram area, right? Unless you are from Ahl Makkah. No, sorry, that's for Hajj. Even Ahl Makkah have to go from the Tan'im area and they have to put their Ihram and come back in. Right? It's not that far. You can take a bus. I think it's like 5 riyals or 10 riyals. The cab drivers will charge you like 100, right? But if you take the bus, it's like, it's pennies. طيب. One who lives in Mecca but outside of the Haram area, he can put on the Ihram from his house and does not need to go to the miqat. Okay, so the people of Ahl Haram, okay, they don't have to go to put their Ihram. Meaning these people are past, I think that's a typo, past the miqat point and are either in or around Mecca, right? So these are people like in the miqat. Remember we said there's different areas of miqat. The people that are inside, these are the people that are inside. They don't have to go to the miqat area. طيب. One who is outside of the miqat point, he must begin from the miqat. So if you're coming from anywhere outside of the miqat area, you have to do your ihram from there. طيب. So for example, if you're doing Umrah here from Calgary, right? If you're going to be traveling over the miqat, you're going to pass it. They'll tell you on the plane, we're about to pass it. Do your niyyah. You'll probably be dressed in 2 cloths. They'll tell you do your niyyah. You'll do your niyyah, and then now you're officially in the state of ihram while you're on the plane. Right? طيب. Who would have thought? طيب. After entering into Ihram, he does tawaf around the Kaaba. We said that 7 times, and he prays 2 units behind the Maqam Ibrahim, the station of Ibrahim. Okay, so this is now Umrah. Okay, then he does the Sa'i. We said 7 times. Safa Marwa, Safa Marwa, Safa Marwa. He ends up on Marwa, and then basically he cuts his hair. Khalas, he's done his Umrah. He has done his Umrah. Remember, Umrah is a separate act of worship. It's done throughout the whole year. It's done throughout the whole day. Right? It's non-stop. It never stops. Okay. Now in the mawsum of Hajj, you have people who are doing tamattu'. They'll do Umrah first, get out of it, then they'll get back into Ihram for Hajj. And then you have people who do Qiran. They make the intention for Hajj and Umrah together. Okay. So this is basically Umrah. Now let's go into Yeah. So the cutting of the hair, you don't have to shave your whole hair. Okay. You can actually trim it. Some of the madhab, they say literally just 3 hairs is enough. Okay. The woman, she just cuts like fingertip, like a unmula of her hair, and that's enough for her, right? She just, if she has a pair of scissors, she can just cut it, and now she's out of ihram. Okay, that's. You can cut your own hair, yeah, yeah, and yeah, it should be fine to cut your own hair, but I mean, usually like when you leave there, there's, halaq everywhere. Okay, barber everywhere. 10 riyals, usually 15 riyals, right? You can even go to your hotel, take a nap if it's too busy, and then there's barbers next to the hotels, you can cut it there, or you can just do it yourself. Yeah, it should be fine, inshallah. Yeah. طيب. Cool. And you can trim too. Some people don't like to shave. You can trim. طيب. So Umrah at a glance. So we said you have your ihram first on the top left. Okay, ihram. Then you do your tawaf. Okay, 7. And then you do your sa'i, 7. And then you basically you cut your hair, right? And you're out of ihram. You're done your umrah. That's basically umrah at a glance. But now let's go to Hajj. And now this is what we're witnessing right now, right? And this is something that I highly recommend you do. Is that maybe now it's almost late? No, it's still there. Try to during these days open the channel of the Hajj that is live and just open it on your TV. Open it on your TV, on your computer. Make sure your family hears it, the talbiyah, what is going on, how the Hujjaj are going. This is something like my wife recommended for us, and it really like makes you feel like you're in Hajj, and you feel what the Hujjaj are going through, and you see them making dua, and you see them like going to Muzdalifah. Like before I came, they were headed to back to Mina now, right? And so it's a very good experience. So make sure you do that when you go home. Inshallah, put the live broadcasting of Al-Hajj. Right? And it will make you feel like you're actually part of this nusuk. So let's talk about the description of Hajj. So Hajj, if you want to really narrow it down, Hajj is basically the 8th day, which was yesterday, okay? The 8th day, where people head to Mina, okay? And then basically they wake up and they go to Arafah, which is the 9th day. And then you have the 10th day, which is tomorrow, the day of Udhiyah. Okay, and then you have Ayyam al-Tashriq, the 3 days of where they stone, right? The Aqabat. Okay, so this is basically Hajj. So technically it's about 5 days. Yeah, 5 to 6 days. That's Hajj for you. Okay, so Umrah we said it could be 2 hours, 1 hour and a half, but Hajj is a bit longer. So it's actually more, it's more tough to do. People who are not very physically fit, they will actually get pretty tired. And even today I was, if you open the channel, the guy from the health ministry was giving kind of like a conference talk, and he was mentioning we've had this many hundreds of people who fainted from a heat stroke, and this many people who we found like unconscious, people who forgot their medicines, people who whatever it is, right, fainted because they got sick, and so it is a very tough environment, especially like now in the heat of. Anybody know how hot it is now in Mecca? Yeah, it's really hot. It's really hot. Like really, really hot. Yeah, I remember those days. SubhanAllah, when I was studying there, every summer I would make sure I would come back to Calgary. Except in COVID, you couldn't, right? When I experienced the heat of Saudi, it's very hot. Very hot. Like sometimes you can't even leave the house. Like you enter the car, like you can't breathe. Like you feel like the oxygen is tight. So it is actually very hot, subhanAllah. And if you don't have an umbrella and you stay in the sun like that, you can really literally get a heat stroke. You can faint. It's not easy. Type. So description of Hajj. Let's start. Bismillah. So one who is in Mecca, it is recommended for him to make ihram for Hajj on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. So this is Yawm al-Tarwiyah. Okay. Some said Tarwiyah is basically it's coming from the meaning of like contemplation. They say this is when Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah he showed him a dream, okay, and he commanded him to do what? To slaughter Ismail, right? And so Ibrahim he was contemplating, is this a dream? Do I have to do it, right? Some say this is where the word tarwiyah comes from, which happened on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he had the dream, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him to slaughter his son Ismail. Okay? So So people will get ready on the 8th day. They'll put the ihram and they'll head to Mina. So you head to Mina and it's recommended to sleep there. What's Mina? Mina is the area that you see with all those tents, right? And it's interesting. If you visited that area after Hajj, it's like a ghost town, right? Like it's just a bunch of tents with like nobody in there, right? There's like ACs in there, and it's like hundreds and thousands of tents just there. It's like a ghost town. You drive through it. There's nobody there. It's just there for Hajj season, subhanAllah. Right? So it's recommended to sleep in Mina after the sun rises. So now it's the 8th day. You go to Mina, you sleep there, and now after the sun rises, okay, which is today for us. Yeah, you woke up on the 9th day. Okay, now you have to leave for Arafah. Okay, you're leaving to Arafah on the 9th day. You're leaving to Arafah. Okay. You can stand anywhere in Arafah except for a place called Batni Urana. This is mentioned in the Sunnah, right? This is a place that you shouldn't be there because you have to be within the vicinity, right? طبعا, is everybody on the Mount of Arafah? No, it's not enough area. But there's signs that tell you Arafah ends here, right? You would have seen on the TV. It'll tell you Arafah ends there. You have to be within that. So Dhuhr and Asr prayers are combined in Arafah at the earlier time, which is the time of Dhuhr. If you recall, when you combine Salah, you have Dhuhr and Asr, you pray them 2-2, okay? So you can pray them Dhuhr and Asr at the time of Dhuhr, at the time of Dhuhr. So then you can leave plenty of time for your dua. So he makes dua. So now when you go to the Mount of Arafah or to the area of Arafah, now you're just there making dua, okay? So you can stay there all day if you want, okay, until midnight. But nowadays most people, they'll go from Dhuhr. They'll be there from Dhuhr until Maghrib. And when the sun sets, you'll see them leave. So those of you who had the TV on today, you would have seen them. The sun is going down. The Hujjaj started leaving Arafah, right? So so the time allowed for standing in Arafah is from Fajr of Arafah until the sunrise of the following day, until Eid basically. You're allowed to stand there, but it's quite a long time. What's interesting is, subhanAllah, like when you go to Arafah, and I've heard this from many people, like they'll make dua for half an hour, and then they're like, khalas, I've asked for everything I want, right? And that's why you should go there prepared. Go there prepared, make a list of dua, have a list of general dua, specific du'as, your family, your relatives, repeat the du'as, right? And so because this is the time where, according to the Sunnah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down and looks at the people of Arafah and He says, I have forgiven you and I have given you what you've asked for. Like this is like the greatest day of the year, so you want to take advantage of it. And I've heard stories where people were found just sleeping. They go on Arafah and they just take a nap and they sleep through the whole thing. Well, khalas, subhanAllah. It's a waste, right? So, So of course you don't have to stay there the whole time. Like I said, generally people go from Fajr until Maghrib or from Dhuhr to Maghrib. And they stay there. طيب. So Hajj at a glance. So far what we've done is we've entered Mecca, right? We've performed the tawaf, okay? Have we done that? No, we haven't. We just, So we've basically just gone to Arafah, okay? Where are we here? Let me just show you where we are. Yeah, so we're number 5, yeah. So we've entered Mecca, right? We've performed the tawaf. We did our sa'i. The sa'i, we said we can delay it, right? Till later. And then we went, number 4, right? We went to Mina. Okay, we entered Mina. We slept there. Then we woke up and we went to Arafah. We woke up and we went to Arafah. So that's kind of where we are now. Okay. When we're done with Arafah, we're gonna go now to Muzdalifah, right? And there's a place called Al-Mash'ar al-Haram. This is where you're supposed to kind of go. It's like on top of the hill of Muzdalifah. And that's where I think they are right now as we speak. They are now in Muzdalifah. If you open the channel right now, you'll see them there, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَإِذَا أَفَضْتُم مِّنْ عَرَفَاتٍ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ. Al-Mash'ar al-Haram is in Muzdalifah, right? طيب. Okay, and then basically we're going to go do the stoning of the Aqaba, right? The animal sacrifice. This is done on the 10th day, which is tomorrow, okay? You're going to trim your hair, and then those people who have not done the Ifadah will do the Tawaf al-Ifadah here, right? We have the stoning of the 3 days of Ayyam al-Tashriq, and then you do the farewell Tawaf, and then you're done, okay? طيب. This is just kind of an overview. Let's go through these in detail, inshallah. So, So now we've left Arafah, okay, and now we head to Muzdalifah. So then he moves to Muzdalifah after sunset with tranquility, and he doesn't rush, okay. So now this is the 10th night of Dhul Hijjah. When we say 10th night of Dhul Hijjah, it's like after Maghrib today. That would be the 10th night of Dhul Hijjah, because we said the day starts from the Maghrib of the day before. So we start with the night, then the day, okay, Shar'an, according to our Islamic calendar. So this is the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, okay. Maghrib and Isha are combined there at the time of Isha. So opposite of what we did before. Before we did Maghrib, Dhuhr, Asr at the time of Dhuhr. Now we're going to do Maghrib, Isha at the time of Isha, okay. And then you spend the night in Muzdalifah, right? You spend the night in Muzdalifah, right? SubhanAllah, there was an image today I was looking at. It was just a picture of all these people just sleeping on the ground and like some tents, right? And it said like whether you're rich or poor, CEO or whatever it is, everyone has to sleep there, wearing the same thing, subhanallah. And that's one of the humbling things about Al-Hajj, okay? So then he, after praying Fajr, he goes to Mash'ar al-Haram. This is the one that's mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah. فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ. Okay, a small mountain in Muzdalifah. He climbs it and stands there making dua and recites the two verses that we just mentioned now. فَإِذَا أَفَضْتُم مِّنْ عَرَفَاتٍ فَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ عِنْدَ الْمَشْعَرِ الْحَرَامِ وَاذْكُرُوهُ كَمَا هَدَاكُمْ وَإِن كُنتُم مِّن قَبْلِهِ لَمِنَ الضَّالِّينَ. Okay, so then at Fajr in Muzdalifah, the 10th day of Dhul Hijjah, so now the 10th day has begun, the morning, the actual day. Okay, so he prays Fajr. Okay, and then he remains until the morning, and then he leaves for Mina. So now, right now, as we speak, okay, they'll be getting ready to head to Mina now for the great day, which is the day of Eid, right? The day of Eid for us, but for them, this is where a lot of things will happen. What will happen? Because they still have to do 4 things. They have to do a rami, throwing the stones, okay, a nahr, which is slaughtering, okay. Al-halq, they have to cut their hair, and they have to do tawaf al-ifada, okay. The acronym for that is ranhat, ra, noon, ha, and taf. Ra for rami, throwing, noon for nahr, slaughtering, ha for halq, cutting, and ta for tawaf, okay. And these ones, they don't all have to be done at the same time, but as long as you do 3 out of the 4, you are basically almost partially out of ihram. So everything will be allowed for you except intimacy. And then when you're out of the 4th one, then everything is halal for you. Okay? So this is a tahallul, right? So he moves to Mina. No. They do the nahr for you. So this is where if you pay for them, then inta khalas, you're not responsible. They do it for every single person. Your group, once you pay for it, they will have someone assigned and they will do it. They know what they're doing. They do it in the right time. They do the basmala. It's done properly, right? It's considered done for you, so you don't have to worry about it. Alhamdulillah, it's just something that is easier for us. So he moves to Mina. When he reaches Muhasar, which is an area between Muzdalifah and Mina, he quickly goes and takes 70 pebbles for stoning. So he gets his hasar, right? Why 70 though? Why do you get 70? Anybody can tell me why 70? So you pick your stones from there now, and there's an area full of them, right? Why 70? Huh? Yeah. So why 70? Because you're supposed to, on Ayyam al-Tashriq, you're supposed to do. There's basically 3 stones you have to throw at 3 large places: right? Al-Aqaba, Al-Kubra, Al-Wusta, and Al-Sughra. The big one, the middle one, and the small one. You have to throw 7 on each day. So what is that? So 21 plus 21 plus 21. What do we got here? 63, which leaves what? 7. These are the 7 you do on the day of Eid. Okay, and you do it on the major one, Al-Aqaba, right? The major one, Al-Kubra. And so that's why it's 70. So you do all, do you have to get them all together? No, but it's recommended. Get all your 70 together, okay? You'll do the 7 on the day of Eid, on the major one. And then on the 11th day and the 12th day and the 13th day, you'll be stoning 21 each day. 777, and then the next day, 777, and then the next day, 777. Okay, that's 63 plus the 7 you did on the 10th day, that's 70. So you would have stoned 70 times if you did all of it. طيب. So you get your 70 for stoning. How big should they be? If you're going to carry 70, there's no way they can be larger than they can't be as big as a baseball bat. So they say they should be bigger than chickpeas. Okay, you guys know chickpeas? Yeah, hummus, chickpeas. But smaller than hazelnuts. Yeah, so hazelnut is like this much, yeah. So yeah, don't get it too big. Because if you accidentally throw it at someone, you might hurt them. Right? And also it's harder to carry. Does it still count? It would still count, but it's just better not to get a smaller size. Okay? طيب. So what have we done? So we've moved to Mina now, right? So we've moved to Mina. Where are we now? Okay? Yeah. We're moving to Mina now for the big day. We're moving for the big day now, which is tomorrow, right? The day of Eid. And for them now, it's coming very soon. Okay? So then he stones only Jamarat al-Aqaba. This is the main one, okay? With 7 pebbles. This is happening on the day of Eid, the 10th day, right? So he's going to do his Rami, the stoning, Rami, right? And then he must throw them. So how do you throw? طبعا you throw them one after the other, okay? And of course, you don't want to throw too far to hit somebody. It might hit someone on the other side, I think. And you don't want to throw short. You might hit someone in front because you're not. There's going to be people in front of you, right? So you have to be careful, right? So he must throw them one after the other and not merely place them down. You can't just go. You can't just go like this. You have to throw. طبعا there's a psychological meaning to this because what you're saying here is it's like symbolic of defeating shaitan. Okay, you're stoning shaitan. And it's very symbolic for you here, as if you're saying, I'm defeating shaitan here, right? Inna shaitan kana lakum aduwan fattakhidhuhu aduwa, right? And it has an effect on the person, some counselors, they tell you if you have a problem with something, you write it down and then you rip it and you burn it and you throw it. It's like you physically got rid of it. And so this has an actual psychological benefit to it when you do that. So you're stoning shaitan, right? You're kind of as if you're defeating him. Tamam? So they say with each throw he raises his arm until he witnesses his armpit can be. You don't have to, and you do takbir. But literally, it shouldn't be like this. It should be that you're actually throwing, right? You're actually throwing. You don't have to be theatrical about it, right? There's a video of this guy. He's like, you don't have to do that, but you do your best. You throw like your normal throw, right? It's not a baseball throw when but you throw, you throw, and then you try to hit kind of the area of it, right? And you say Allahu Akbar, and you want to do it with the niyyah, you want to do it with the niyyah that you're actually stoning a shaitan. So then you do your hadi, right? The authorities will do it for you, okay? So we've done Rami, An-Nahr, run, okay? Then he trims his shiv's head. So now ha, right? The halq. What's left? The ta, which is tawaf. He still has to do tawaf, right? He still has to do tawaf. So, it's permissible for him. He's done 3 out of the 4. Remember, there's 4 things you have to get out of. You have to do to get out of your ihram. He's done 3, so he's out of the minor ihram. So now, after this point, everything becomes permissible. Cutting the hair, perfume, except intercourse, except being intimate with your spouse. Okay, so now to get out of that, you have to do your what? Your tawaf. You have to do your tawaf al-ifada. You can do your tawaf al-ifada then on the 10th day, or some people like to delay it to do it with tawaf al-wada', like the one where you leave. Okay, because it's you have to do tawaf al-wada' before you leave the actual masjid. Okay, and you're going to go somewhere else. And once you do it, you leave. You don't do it and then you go do shopping. It's recommended to do everything you need to do, and then you do tawaf al-wada' and then you leave. Okay. Some people don't feel safe in their ihram, so they like to do their tawaf right away, get out of ihram, and then do their tawaf al-wada' after, right? So it's called tawaf al-ifada or tawaf al-ziyara. Both are the same thing. Okay. Yeah. ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس. Right? This is where it gets its name. So this is a pillar, which means without it, Hajj is invalid. Okay? So you have to do this one. It's not an optional thing. Then he can also perform his sa'i if he has not already done so. Remember we said the sa'i, okay, you can do it earlier, okay, after tawaf, or you can delay it now. You can delay it now for, like, if you can do it after Tawaf al-Qudum, okay, the Tawaf where you enter the masjid, you can do your sa'i there, or you can delay your sa'i with Tawaf al-Ifada. That's up to you. That's up to you. طيب. Jamil. After this, everything becomes permissible. So now he's done his tawaf. Now he's out of his ihram. Now everything is permissible for him. So now even intercourse is permissible for him. طيب. It is recommended to drink Zamzam. Okay, for whoever. طبعا we know that Zamzam. Okay. There's a hadith that the Prophet says that Zamzam is for whoever drank it. Yani, whoever drinks Zamzam and makes dua, he will get that, right? And it's recommended to, when you drink Zamzam, you have that niyyah. You have that niyyah. You know, we have stories of the ulama, who would go there and they would have horrible memory, right? And they would drink Zamzam and make dua, and they would become huffaz, right? They were able to memorize and do things. So that is not something that is just fairy tales. No, this is and some people even bring it over here. Is it effective here like it is in the haram? There's ikhtilaf about it. But it's definitely recommended to drink it there as much as you can. It's free, it's there, it tastes good, and every time you drink it, you should make dua. طيب. Jameel. So that's kind of so we've done Tawaf al-Qudum, we did the Sa'i, we left Mina, we went to Arafah, we went to Muzdalifah, right? Then the first day of Eid, we did those 4 things. We did the Rami, we stoned, we sacrificed, we cut the hair, and then we went back to the Kaaba to do the Ifada. Now we have the 11th, 12th, 13th day, Ayyam al-Tashriq. Now we have Ayyam al-Tashriq. So now he returns to stay in Mina for 3 nights. Okay? Do you have to stay 3 nights? You can do 2 nights. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ فِي أَيَّامٍ مَعْدُودَاتٍ فَمَنْ تَعَجَّلَ فِي يَوْمَيْنِ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ وَمَنْ تَأَخَّرَ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى. So you can actually stay for 2 days. If you want to stay for 2 days, you have to leave before Maghrib of the next day, of the second day, which starts the 3rd day, or you can do the 3 days. There's no problem. So he returns to Mina for the 3 nights. However, he has an option to stay for only 2 and then leave. He throws the stones every day of the 10 of the days of Tashriq. So the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, which will be here what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Okay, after Zawal, after kind of the Dhuhr time, after the sun reaches its highest point. Okay, he stones all 3 jamarat. The major one, the middle one, and the smaller one, right? 7 pebbles each. Remember we said, so 11th day, we're going to do 777, 21. 12th day, 777, another 21. 13th day, 777, okay, another 21, that's 63. That's 63. So he stones all the jamarat with 7 pebbles each. It is recommended to do it before praying Dhuhr prayer. For those who want to leave after 2 days and not remain for all 3 days, they must leave Mina before Maghrib. Otherwise, they are obligated to stay the night and stone all 3 jamarat the following day. So if you want to leave early for any reason, you have an excuse, you want to leave, then there's no problem. You can leave, but you have to leave before Maghrib. So then he performs Tawaf al-Wada', right, the farewell Tawaf, and then he's done. This is obligatory. If you don't do this one, you have to pay fidya. Okay, you have to actually pay fidya if you don't do this one. So you have to make sure that you do this. Tawaf al-Wada'. After doing it, he stops at Multazam, between the corner with the black stone and the door, supplicating. This is something that is recommended. You go between where the door is and the black stone, and you do some dua. It's something recommended. It's not something you have to do. Okay. طيب. Jameel. So that's kind of. Now that we kind of covered what you do in Hajj and Umrah, we have to talk about the technicalities of what are the obligations and what are the pillars. When we say pillar, a rukun is something that the building can't stand without it. So if you miss a rukun, the act of worship is gone. Let's talk about salah. What's a rukun of salah? What's a rukun? That's a shart. What's a rukun? In salah, you have to read al-Fatiha. So you have to read al-Fatiha. If we're going to get up now for Maghrib, or whenever you pray Maghrib, and you get up, Allahu Akbar, okay, and then you say, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allah, and then you go down. Is that a rak'ah? It's not. That rak'ah does not count because you forgot what? You forgot a rukun, a pillar. So technically you would have to pray, instead of 3 for Maghrib, you'd have to add another one. Okay, you'd have to add another one and then pray salat or do sajdat sahu. Okay, so the pillars are things that you have to do, and if you leave them, okay, the action is not accepted. The obligations, okay, the wajibat, okay, are things that if you forget, you have to pay fidya for them. You have to pay a fidya for them. We talked about fidya is, right? Siyam, أو صدقة أو nusuk. Either you fast, or you feed, or you slaughter a sheep or a goat or cow or camel. طيب. So whatever is not mentioned here is a sunnah. So there are things that are sunnah, like drinking zamzam, like reading the ayat, and so on. So or going, fast or slowing down. So these are recommended. If it's not mentioned here, that means it's a sunnah. So we're going to talk about the pillars. No, so we said a pillar, if any of the following is missing, then the hajj is considered invalid. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Al-Hajju Arafah. So if you don't do Arafah, that means there is no hajj, right? And this happens. Like sometimes I heard stories where people, they miss their bus or something, or their bus breaks down, and they don't make it to Arafah, and they're too late, and they miss Arafah. Okay, khalas, your hajj is gone. You have to come back and do hajj again. But you still have to what? You still have to get out of ihram. So it's a very painful situation, subhanAllah. طيب, so number one is al-ihram, of course. Number two, standing in Arafah. We're talking about hajj here. So al-ihram is a pillar. It has to be done. Okay, standing in Arafah, you have to do it. If you miss it, khalas, there's no hajj, right? If you don't have ihram, there's no hajj, obviously. At-tawaf, al-ifada, you have to do tawaf al-ifada. Tawaf al-ifada, or az-ziyara as we called it, they're both the same, ziyara or ifada. Okay, you have to do it, and you have to do as-sa'i. So those are the four pillars of hajj. Okay, al-ihram, standing in Arafah, doing your tawaf and your sa'i. Okay, anything other than that, okay, you can pay a fidya for it, or it's a sunnah. Okay, then your hajj will be fine. But if you miss one of these four, your hajj is gone. It doesn't count. طيب. Let's talk about the obligation. So what's an obligation? If any of the following is missing, then the hajj is still valid, but you have to pay a fidya. You have to pay a fidya. طيب. So what are some of these obligations? So from these obligations, we have starting ihram from the miqat point. Remember we said we have to do it from the miqat. If someone goes over the miqat and then does the ihram, you have to pay fidya. So that's a wajib for hajj. You have to pay fidya if you don't do that. طيب. Someone asked about, can I do the miqat can I do the ihram way before the miqat? Yeah, you can, but it's disliked because you might fall into a kafara. You might fall into from the mahdhurat. So if someone is coming from Egypt, should he put his ihram in Al-Qahira, in Cairo, and stay in his ihram for like, I don't know how long it is, the trip to a day or so? No, it's better like when you get closer. طيب. Number two, from the wajibat, from the obligations, is standing in Arafah at least like for a moment. You don't have to stay the whole day or from Maghrib but you have to stay at least one moment of the night. Okay, you have to. Otherwise, it wouldn't count. طيب. So you must stay there until at least one moment after Maghrib. Yes, you have to stay there for at least one moment after Maghrib. From the wajibat, spending the night in Muzdalifah, as we mentioned. If you reach before midnight, you must stay there at least until the middle of the night has passed. Okay? If you get there before midnight, you have to. So it counts as if you actually bitta fi Muzdalifah. If you reach Muzdalifah after the middle of the night, you don't have to wait. Okay? Yani you're late and you reach after the middle of the night, it's still, it counts for you, but you don't have to wait there. Staying the nights of Tashriq in Mina. Okay? The 11th, the 12th, the 13th. Right? And you have the optional of the 13th, you can actually leave before that. Throwing the stones in order. So you have to start from Al-Kubra to the Wusta to the Sughra. You can't change the order around. So you have to do them in order. This is an obligation. If you don't do them in order, then you have to pay a fidya. You have to pay a fidya, compensation. طيب, shaving or trimming the hair. Let's say someone forgets to shave or trim the hair, then they have to pay a fidya. Tawaf al-wada', if someone doesn't do tawaf al-wada', the kind of the last tawaf you do, the farewell tawaf, then you have to pay a fidya. Okay? What else? Yeah, it is done before, and this is done before departing Mecca. It's recommended that this is the last thing you do. You do tawaf al-wada' and then you leave. So those are the wajibat for Hajj. Pillars and obligations of Umrah. This is much easier. So Umrah, we said Umrah is four things, right? The first three of them are the arkan, the pillars. Okay, so we have basically al-ihram, wa-tawaf, wa-sa'i. Ihram, tawaf, sa'i. These are from the arkan. If you don't have them, you don't have Umrah. Okay. And then they say the obligations, right, is doing ihram from the miqat point, okay, and also the halq, okay, the shaving, right. In Umrah, if you don't do the shaving, this is according to the Hanbalis, yani, you can actually pay the kafara for it, and your Umrah will still be valid. طيب. We're almost done. Missing Arafah. So missing Arafah. So we said Arafah, Al-Hajj Arafah. If you miss Arafah, then we have a problem. What happens? So, طبعا we said that if you miss Arafah and you've made your condition, then you can get out of ihram wherever you are. So following should be done if you did not make the conditional intention during ihram. Otherwise, you can just become free from your ihram without doing anything. So if you miss Arafah and you did the condition, okay, you can get out of ihram. But if you didn't do that condition and you missed Arafah, then you have to, number one, you realize that you missed your Hajj. Khalas, your Hajj is gone. But you still have to do your Hajj again the following year or whenever you're able to. Now, if you missed it, it could be because of your mistake or because of something else. Something stopped you, okay? So if you missed it because of your own mistake, then you do the following, okay? So you get out of ihram. So now we want to get out of ihram. We missed Arafah, right? And the Hajj is kind of over, but we have to leave ihram, okay? So if it's your own mistake, okay, then you have to finish it as a umrah. Do the rites of umrah, okay? Which is what, right? You've done your tawaf, your sa'i, and your halq, and then you are out of the ihram, okay? And then you slaughter an animal as a compensation for actually missing because it's out of your own mistake, right? If you cannot, you will fast, like we said before. If you cannot, you will fast. If you missed it not because of your own mistake, but you were prevented in some way, something happened, you missed your bus, or I don't know, some major event happened, you do the rites of umrah, okay, but you don't have to slaughter because it's not your fault, okay? And then you finish and you get out of ihram. So that's what happens if you miss Arafah, you still have to get out of ihram and you still have to do Hajj again. And this is the last thing that we have to do, inshallah, which is the sacrifices, okay? And this is important, especially for us who are going to be doing the slaughtering tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday. So al-udhiyah, so this is something that one of the greatest acts of worship that you can do in these days is al-udhiyah, right? Al-udhiyah is done after when? After Salatul Eid. Are you allowed to do it before Salatul Eid? Like, can you go after Fajr, to the farm, slaughter, I'm done, and then come back and pray? You can, but it won't count as your udhiyah. Yeah, it will count as a sadaqah, it's an accepted good deed, ما في مشكلة. Okay, then you just have to go back to the farm and do another one. Tamam. So what is the hukum of al-udhiyah? Some ulama said it's wajib for those who are able, they have the money, okay, and some said it's highly recommended, okay. Now, as a Muslim, sometimes we get lost in the semantics, wajib, recommended. The Nabi ﷺ said that ahabbul a'mal, the most beloved deeds is this on the day of Eid. This is the most beloved act, right? Is slaughtering the animal. So if you're able to slaughter an animal, then slaughter the animal, okay? And go there and do it yourself, because this is one of the greatest acts of worship, okay? It is disliked to not do it for the one who is able to do it. So if you're able to do it and you're like, I'm too lazy, I don't want to do it, you shouldn't do it. It's disliked. It can only be done with camels, cows, sheep, or goats. Okay, domesticated animals. طبعا we said it has to be after Salatul Eid. So you pray Salatul Eid, you can head to the farm if you want. Okay, or you can do it the next day, right? Like I'm going to do it on Monday, just to the people are going to be rushing. You choose whichever day you're going to do it. It ends immediately after the 13th of Dhul Hijjah. Okay, remember, because we said Ayyam al-Tashriq are the days you can do your slaughtering. Okay, once the Ayyam al-Tashriq are done, Eid is technically done, and then you cannot slaughter anymore. You can slaughter, but it won't be counted as an udhiyah. Okay, good. طيب, we'll skip that one. طيب. For the person who's going to actually cut your meat, are you allowed to pay him with the meat? You're not allowed to. So you have to be careful. If someone says, I'll pay you half of the meat and then I'll give you the rest in cash, you're not allowed to. So the one who actually cuts your meat or does your dhabiha, you're not allowed to compensate him with any part of the udhiyah. Okay, nothing from the animal is allowed to be given to the butcher as a form of payment. Are you allowed to give him as gift? Yeah, ما في مشكلة. Sadaqah, a gift for him, no problem. You cannot sell the skin or any part of it. Okay, even if it's to give, to get cash and give it to the poor. Like you cannot, like a lot of people leave the heads and the legs, and in the farm you see heads everywhere, legs everywhere. are you allowed to grab them, sell them? You're not allowed to do that, right? You can just give them or take them yourself and طيب, which is the most preferred? Is it a sheep or a goat, right, or a cow? So the fuqaha, they say the camel is the highest recommended. I don't know if you can find a camel here, maybe in Calgary Zoo, but they won't let you take it, right? Or a cow, tamam, because it's a bigger animal, it has more meat. Then a sheep, then a goat, tamam. Then a sheep, then a goat. Most people will go for a sheep. You can also get a goat, ما في مشكلة, if you like goat meat. So age requirements, it cannot be any age. For the camel, it has to be 5 years or older. Cow has to be 2 years or older. You can also do like a buffalo, the male. Goats have to be 1 year old. If you want to do a goat, it has to be 1 year old. The sheep, and be careful about this one, it has to be 6 months, right? So I've been told a lot of the farms in the area, they have, but they're less than 6 months. That wouldn't be counted as your udhiyah. It wouldn't be counted as your udhiyah. So you have to make sure that it's 6 months or older for your sheep to count. طيب. For a family of 8, okay, how many sheep do they have to do? One, khalas, one is enough, okay? As long as one household, right? One. If they want to do more, that's just extra sadaqah for them. If others, they can do it, no problem. We said that one camel or cow suffices 7 people. So if there's 7 families, they're like, you know what, let's get a cow. We don't want to eat high, we want to get some beef. You can do that, okay? Even if the fuqaha, even if the other 6 are non-Muslims, yeah, that's fine. As long as you do your share, then it's still counted as an udhiyah. طيب. It is not allowed for you to get a sheep or a cow or a camel that is weak or sick or blind or it's missing teeth. Anything that makes it like has naqs, right? Because when you slaughter, you want to slaughter the best for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So a cripple like has a missing leg or it's a broken leg, right? When you want to pick the best. You want to pick the best because this is a sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you want to make sure you pick the best. Because some people will be like, you know what? The market's high, £5 a day, $5 a pound now, yeah? And then some guy tells you, oh, you know what? Broken leg, 50% off. Okay? No, that's not allowed, right? To do that. Unless what? Unless like that's the only one left, right? Unless that's the only left, muttar, no problem. طيب. Sunnahs of the udhiyah, طبعا, you lay it down. You don't want to do it in front of the other animals. You make sure your knife is sharp, okay? Make sure your knife is sharp, you do it properly. You don't want to do it in front of other animals. Like animals have feelings, right? So it's not a show, bring all the sheep and you're like, oh, your cousin. Yeah, so you want to move it away from the other ones. You cover its eyes, you put it down. If you do it the right way, usually they're calm. Some people don't really know how to do it, so the thing is jumping everywhere and there are like 4 people grabbing it. If you do it the right way, usually they will calm down, okay? And then you can actually and then basically you want to do it like, basically 2. And as long as you cut it properly, right? And the blood is gushing out, and you make sure your knife is sharp, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He loves al-itqan, and when one of you slaughters, he should make sure that he sharpens his knife out of mercy to the animal. You make your niyyah, and you say Bismillah, Allahumma hada minka wa lak. You can say that, or you can say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar, no problem. This is from you and for you, minka wa lak. How do we distribute the meat? What do you do with the meat of the udhiyah? Naam.
We don't say the hada anni wa an ahli.
You can say that, yeah, no problem. Yeah, this is for. Yeah, you can intend it in your heart, or you can say it. Yeah, this is for me and from my family. Yeah, that's ما في مشكلة with that. يعني في توسع in this place. طيب, what do we do with the meat now? You go home and put it in your freezer. What do you do? So in the books of fiqh, they mention that it's recommended to split it in 3. 1/3 for you, 1/3 for your family, like relatives and stuff, neighbors, and one for like friends and stuff. If you don't do that, it's still accepted, it's fine, okay? But it's recommended to do that, right? It's recommended. So 1/3 you eat from it, 1/3 gift it away for family, friends, and even non-Muslims, okay? And 1/3 you give it away in charity, right? Even if it's poor non-Muslims, right? But طبعا المسلم أولى. If there's Muslims that are poor, you give them first, okay? طبعا for those of you who made an intention in the Hanbali madhab, it's not allowed for you for the 10 days, okay, to cut your nails or trim your hair, you're supposed to not do that until you actually slaughter your animal. Okay? There's a hadith for that. And the Hanabila see that it's wajib. And for the person who made an intention to slaughter, he's not supposed to cut his nails or shave his hair or trim until he actually slaughters his animal. And the last thing, and we're done, Jazakallah for your patience, is al-aqiqah. What's al-aqiqah? And this is usually put because it's similar to Hajj, the Udhiyah. What's al-aqiqah? You just had a newborn, and, right? You from the sunnah is to slaughter on his behalf, right? The hadith that al-mawlud marhun, with this aqiqah. So basically, it's when you slaughter an animal for a newborn out of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and maybe other people, they never got a child. So out of gratitude, you slaughter for if you have a male, you slaughter what? 2 sheep, and for a female, you slaughter 1 sheep. Okay, so it's something that is recommended. If you had a child and you never did aqiqah for them, the aqiqah is the actual slaughtering. Then there's a walima, the actual party, or you bring people, you feed them. That's highly recommended as well. But the actual aqiqah is the actual slaughtering. Okay, 2 sheep for a boy, 1 sheep for a girl. Recommended to slaughter on the 7th day. If you can't 7th day, 14th or 21st, if you can't on any of those days, this is just from the sunnah. Then you can do any other day. Okay, if you miss it, then any other day is fine. And it's not like you have to, but it's from the sunnah. Same thing as udhiyah, we said it has to be a good one. It can't be a cripple, it can't be this. You cannot pay the butcher or the one who slaughters or skins for you out of the actual meat. We said you can sheep, you can do sheep, goat, cow, or camel. What else? So all of that is the same. There are some rulings which are different between the two. Okay, so for example, if you had, I don't know, someone had 7 kids, okay, or maybe he had 3 boys or something, twins, you cannot say I'm going to do 1 cow for all of them. Remember we said that 1 is for 7, right? You cannot do that with aqiqah. Okay, you would have to do each animal counts as 1, birth, for example. So if you had 1 boy, okay, or let's say you had 2 boys, you can't be I'm just going to do 1 cow. Okay, because it will be 4 sheep, and that will be counted as 7. No, you can't do that. You have to do separate animal for each one of them. And that's it. Alhamdulillah, we finished. I know I went a bit fast, but I wanted to kind of finish the content. طبعا, the goal of this halaqa was not for us to become experts in Hajj and Umrah, but just for us to, at least as Muslims, we understand what is Hajj, what is Umrah, what happens in it, what are some of the pillars, and for those of us who have not gone, to have that niyyah, inshallah, to go. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us here to go to Hajj, inshallah, next year. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the Hajj of the Hujjaj now who are in the sacred lands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I don't mind taking a few questions, and then we can all go and get ready for inshallah. Naam? If you cannot get an udhiyah, if you can't find one, there should be plenty. طبعا, can't get it, meaning it's too far from me, or طبعا, there's some people who will do it for you here. You can pay them, and even there's services where you can actually pay the money overseas, right, and do it. Some people like to do one local, one overseas. So you can. There's some butchers you can pay them, and they'll do everything for you. Literally, they'll get it and they'll slaughter for you, and you probably have to pay a bit extra, and they'll skin it for you. And some people like to do it yourself. I personally recommend you go do it yourself and you take your family, because the actual ibadah of actually slaughtering the animal, okay, inshallah you're more rewarded for that, and because it's the most beloved action to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every second you're spending. I know people don't like to go to the farm. It smells, we have to wait sometimes, right? But it's an act of worship, and it's the greatest act of worship you can do in that day, of course after the fara'id, like the salawats and stuff. But it's a great act of worship, and so you try. There's many farms, some people travel an hour, some people travel, there's some of them 18 minutes away, some of them are 40 minutes away, some of them are, 2 hours away, there's lots of farms, and some of them you can actually book them ahead of time. We said third you eat, third for family friends, and third sadaqah. If you don't do that, it's still accepted as a udhiyah. for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you want to get more reward, the ulama, they say that you should try to break it up in 3. Yeah. Yeah, تفضل.
You said that sheep or goat suffices for a household. So what exactly constitutes a household?
A household يعني basically يعني عائلة that lives in the same house, and that one person is responsible for them, I guess, mainly responsible for them. So you can say like a nuclear family, like father, like a husband, wife, children, and maybe a grandma's living with them. One is enough for them. Tamam.
Even if extended families living together?
Extended family, like they're separate families. Like sometimes you have big houses, and like you have a whole family in the basement and a whole family in the top. Yeah, then it would be recommended to do one each if they're able to. Yeah.
What if, for example, you have your parents or grandparents, your cousins or aunts, everyone lives together in a big house?
That's a big family, inshallah. Yeah, if they're all dependent on like one income, that would be considered one household. Like there's like one main person who's responsible, then it would just one would be enough for them, if that makes sense. Like one household, they're all one household, and there's like one main income for them, then that would be enough for them. But if they're like separate families living in the same building, then it would be better for them to do one for each.
What if they all share or contribute to the income? If you have multiple people working and they share?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it would be better to do for each kind of like family in of itself. But if they're like individuals, يعني one is enough for the household. And generally one is enough for the household. How big is the household? Allah alam, I'm not sure. Allah alam. Yeah. But يعني you can't go wrong with just doing an extra one. Yeah, inshallah, if the people are able to do it, inshallah. Yeah. Questions? Yeah, تفضل اجوا.
Like the slaughter for the newborn, said that like you could, if you waited long enough, you could just do it like any day, right? Does that mean you could like wait until like they're in their 30s?
Yeah, so some ulama said if someone missed the aqiqah of their child, they can do it later. ما في مشكلة يعني. There's nothing wrong with that.
There's like no limit to how like long.
Yeah, but it's just recommended to do it earlier when they're young. Yeah. تفضل.
Nowadays you can just do it online and
For the udhiyah.
countries
For the udhiyah.
for
Yeah, qurbani, yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you just have to make sure that they do it after the salah. And
How would you know if you're donating like a week in advance? You're giving the money.
طبعا you have to do your due diligence about yeah. There's two opinions. There's an opinion that says they should do it after your salah, and there's an opinion that says that it's okay if they do it after their salah, because for some countries like they have to wait till like night time for them to slaughter, yani for us, and so yani inshallah it should be fine if they, as long as they do it after their salah. You trust these people, you trust the organization, right? And inshallah it'll be accepted bismillah.
Another question: wife and husband both works and both have income.
One's enough. One's enough. The household, yeah, generally, yeah. Now,
So for the cow, can we share the money to buy one? Or this one can buy?
can you share like multiple families sharing one goat?
No, for the cow. For 7 families, yeah?
The cow, now.
Yeah, can we collect the money from each
Yeah,
family and buy
yeah,
one?
yeah. Slaughter it, and then it will be counted for all 7 families, inshallah.
Yeah.
Bidnillah. Yeah. Bidnillah. Naam. Go ahead.
Follow up to this question.
Mhm.
What are reverts? Are they under any obligation to offer a people?
طبعا the aqiqah is the obligation of the parents. It's something that the parents have to do, and like I said, it's not a wajib, but some of the ulama they said if they want to do it they can do it, inshallah it'll be accepted bi'idhnillah. Revert, for example, I mean it should be, but it's not something that it's a deen or it's an obligation for them, but if they do it, it's fine, inshallah, and it'll be considered like a sadaqah and and a sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, but it's not an obligation on them. Tawaf al-Ifada is done in the 10th day. Yes. Mhm. Yeah, it's done after Arafah. So so in the most of those things will be done in the 10th day after Arafah. So Arafah is 9th day, 10th day, right? We said your rami, your nahar, your slaughtering, your tawaf, and your halq. You can do all those in the 10th day. Okay. Yeah, on the 10th day. Yeah, this is what most people will do. Yeah. Yeah, on that day you do 7 only, on the big one, on the main one. And then on the 11, 12, 13, you're going to do 21, 21, 21. Yeah. Yeah, that's what, go home, you mean back to the Mina. Yeah. You're saying back to your hotel room, you said? Are you allowed to go to your hotel room from... Yeah, but it's recommended to sleep in Mina for the 11, 12, 13. Yeah, it's recommended to be in Mina now for the 11, 12, 13. Yeah. That's al-aqaba. Al-aqaba, yeah, that's where you throw. Okay. No. It's close to Mina. It's close to Mina. It's not too far. It's a... Yeah. If you didn't sleep in Mina, it's still accepted, but it's recommended to sleep in Mina. And from the Sunnah is to sleep in Mina. Yeah. Allahu A'lam. طيب, we'll stop there inshallah. Barakallahu fikum for your patience. Jazakumullah khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept. And don't forget to make dua. The Arafah is going to finish in 2 hours inshallah. So just make sure you make dua. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.